Hey, welcome back to another edition of Everything Football 6-2. I'm your host, John, the Big Tex Johnson, a.k.a. Uncle Tex, a.k.a. Professor Tex. Before we get started, smash that like button, subscribe to the page, share with a friend. Any questions, comments, concerns, leave them down below. I ain't going to make this too doggone long and whatnot. I ain't got a whole lot to say. You guys know I normally take a sabbatical and everything when it comes down to at this time of the year. But I wanted to sit up there and say something about this whole thing going on here while Shedeur Sanders, and as I also say, I'm cut out a little bit. It's like any questions, comments, concerns, leave it respectful. This is just a game. Got anything to say? Let's not be disrespectful, and then we can go ahead and go on about our business. Again, going back to Jaxson Dart over Shedeur Sanders, we looked at the draft last night. We seen that it was basically only two quarterbacks taken in the first round and whatnot. A lot of people projected that Shedeur Sanders was going to be the second quarterback pick. Now, over the past 2 weeks, a lot of negative press that came with him and whatnot. And I knew from that particular point of view. First of all, the negative press really comes from the fact that he's Deion Sanders' son. And it's a cockiness, it's an arrogance or whatever like that. But I'm like, who's his father? What do you expect? And at the end of the day, it's like the kid produced. He played 4 years of football. Matter of fact, if I'm not mistaken, he won like 36. He's like 36-15 or something like that. We'll look it up and whatnot. Now, Jaxson Dart, this is the funny part. This is what I look at here. Now, with Jaxson Dart and whatnot, fine quarterback and what he does and how he does. But one of the things that is really funny to me about how it gets down with him is the fact that he's kind of not actually a dual threat quarterback, right? He's kind of a dual threat quarterback. Now, the funny thing about Jaxson Dart, if we go down here, we'll look at the 2024 season. Both of them had 13 starts. Jaxson Dart 10-3, Shedeur 9-3. Shedeur 74%. Old boy 4,279 yards. Jaxson Dart, Sanders, 4,134 yards. Dart, 29 touchdowns. Shedeur Sanders, 37 touchdowns. 6 inch to 10 picks, 10-8. Y'all basically see it up there and whatnot. And like I said, Dart, 10-3. Old boy, 9-4. They both lost, didn't get into the playoffs, of the college playoffs. They made the bowl game. They should have won. It's a couple of games that Colorado should have won. Now, the problem I think that they're having, and this is my take on it. You can take it however you want to take it. My thing is this here, is that when you talk about Shedeur Sanders is a traditional drop back passer. He's not a dual threat guy, and I think that's what a lot of people thinking that he was supposed to be. Now, somebody like Dart averaged about 400, almost close to 500 yards rushing, along with the yards that he made and whatnot, and all that. Now, the funny part about all of that is, at one time, that was known as a liability. If you were a dual threat quarterback, that was a liability. How is it that Shedeur Sanders, a traditional drop back passer, who can take off and run if he has to, but he's really not that guy. He's a traditional drop back passer. Now, how is it that Jaxson Dart, a traditional, which is a 2.0 of Johnny Manziel to an extent, is not, but yet you take Shedeur Sanders. Both of them, especially Shedeur, played 4 years of football, which I also think that that's a good thing, playing 4 years of ball and used to a lot of different things. Now, you explain to me, how is it that Jaxson Dart got picked over him? Now, if we look at the records and whatnot, and like I said, Dart played 1 year at USC, and then when USC had to change, Lincoln Riley, then they brought Caleb, and all this other kind of stuff like that. Okay, fine. Now, what they're going to try to hold against, or what they'll use now, oh, well, he played at HBCU. Shedeur Sanders. Why is that a problem? So does Steve McNair. Now, all of a sudden, this guy was supposed to be a top 5, talking about Shedeur Sanders, was supposed to be a top 5 pick. All of a sudden, he's not. All of a sudden, bad attitude. He didn't interview. He didn't do this. He didn't do it. I don't know what went on. I don't know what happened. Have no clue. I know as far as I thought. Now, the funny part about this is everything that Jaxson Dart is what tons of black quarterbacks were in the past, and then they drip down and then they fall down in the draft because of the dual threatness. Now, this guy ends up going before you because he really wasn't even talked about, because it was about Shedeur Sanders that he would go second. But then New York got him and said, well, he just interviewed better. Sure he did. Y'all coming off of a quarterback, the Giants. Y'all coming off a quarterback that got traded mid-season, that nobody knew anything about, but because he went to Duke, a basketball school, haven't had a quarterback since fucking Sonny Jurgensen. Let's go up here a little bit more. In the 25th pick, Texas traded, and they went and got Dart. Dart, which is, I mean, he's all right, but I'm like, he's not, in my opinion, is what Shedeur did. It's like, how does he fall there, and then my man doesn't? See, that's the problem. And I've already showed you the numbers. If we want to get technical about it, just say, so when it was black quarterbacks that did that, they fell in the draft. Traditional quarterbacks that played 4 years, they always got up echelon of being picked. Now, neither one of them are like ever Cam Newton or whatever and stuff like that or whatever, but they both played 4 years, especially Sanders. And we go to Jaxson Dart, who had a fine year last year. He didn't throw 37 touchdowns, though. Now, they say, well, he played in the SEC. I really don't care, because we can debunk all that from some of the past quarterbacks who played in quote-unquote lesser conferences. Why is that a problem? Why did that become a problem? Don't tell me that racism still doesn't happen in the aspect of that of football when it comes to quarterbacking. They don't like his arrogance. Because he has all of that. But that's the same thing Deion. And one of the funniest things that I end up learning about Deion over the past 3 or 4 years ago is that even though we're around the same age, we're about a year apart, is that Deion did not talk a lot of trash. Everything that he did was the fact that, a persona. This guy was 69.3 in 2023 completion ratio and 74%, which gave him an average of 71%. We're not even talking about his Jackson State days, which we say, you have 2 Hall of Famers over there. You have Walter Payton and Dr. Doom, Robert Brazile, and whatnot. If we go back and talk about Dart, and Dart's a fine quarterback, but at the same time, he threw for 29 touchdowns, 4,279 yards, 29 touchdowns, and 6 picks, and made all-conference first team. Shedeur basically made all-conference first team 3 years. Johnny Unitas Award, Offensive Player of the Year. You know what I'm saying? So How is it that he fell? Well, he fell because people started sitting up there saying all kinds of things actually about him. And that's a sad assessment. I'm not trying to play the quote-unquote race card because I remember when Dan Marino fell down. I remember when he fell. Now, in let's say let's see what it is. Now, if we go into the second round, you got Cleveland. Keep going down. You got Vegas. He has to go between 33 and 37. Possibly 40. But at this particular point in time, it really shouldn't really matter. Because most guys that sit up there and leave out, they come from poverty stricken. He has NIL deals. He's good. Money's not even the issue. It's about where you put him at. Did he not perform in college? He has a resume. Not these guys is one and done and whatever like that. Even with going back to Cam Ward. The Cam Ward, those guys play 4 years. I thought that's what you guys wanted. I thought that's what the NFL wanted with these guys playing 3 and 4 years of football. Now all of a sudden, no. Which one is it? So it comes back down at the end of the day to that of who interviewed the best. And all of a sudden, this past week or the last 2 weeks, all of a sudden, Shedeur Sanders is a liability. How? His father is aside from a college coach, was an NFL player, one of the best to ever do it. So he's going to give him everything that he needs to do. Because a lot of that combine shit is bullshit. Y'all know it and I know it. So now it's an issue. But Shedeur should go to second round. Money shouldn't be an object. He should be able to pick up on the team. But to talk shit about him based upon the fact because you don't like him or he should have interviewed this particular way here is bullshit. He should have went to the Giants. That's my take on it. He should have went to the Giants. And then Dart goes in the second round. But I knew that was going to happen. See, after football's over with, you guys pretty much know I don't really make a lot of content simply because there's really nothing to talk about because I don't put that much shit into the draft. I don't put that much shit into the draft because it's a dice roll and it's over-exaggerated. I'll watch the first round even though it's a clown fucking circus, but I'll watch it. Travis Hunter did what Travis Hunter was supposed to do. Cam Ward did what he's supposed to do. Everybody has the first 4 or 5 picks. After that, you don't know who the fuck is going to go and if they're going to even be any good. Now, Philly seems to have gotten, seems to have gotten heavier on defense, which you got Jalen Hurts, you got Devontae Adams, you got my man number 11, you got him, you got Saquon Barkley, you got AJ Brown, I believe. Then you got Saquon Barkley. They're loaded on offense. They're loaded on the offensive line. Then they just got better with that of a Alabama linebacker. So they're looking really pretty good at this particular time. But as I say that used to be a liability for black quarterbacks based upon their particular skill set. Now, the white guy who averages about 475, 450 yards rushing as a quarterback, plus throwing for 4,000 yards, and then Shedeur Sanders, who's a traditional drop back passer, he falls. What are we talking about? Again, this is just an observation. This is an observation. I am not trying to say that's what it is, but this is an observation. I think one of the cooler things I saw earlier is that Warren Moon retired his jersey for the Titans and let Cam Ward wear it. cool. Now, with Cam Ward, he played and had a nice career. I don't know anybody at Incarnate University and stuff like that, but what he did in Miami, just think if he actually had a fucking defense. Here's the thing here.
We have a special guest here. Who did?
Thank you. I might put sleeves on that. Thank you.
We have a special guest here. Who did?
Now, with that, my team, Dallas, they've done well. They got an offensive tackle from out of Alabama. Guard, I believe. Terrell Booker. And that's good. But the point of it is that people want to find out. I say, that's the reason why right there. It has nothing to do with this kid's talent. Once upon a time, the draft actually dealt with a resume that you put up. Then you go to the combine, you do what you do and stuff like that. They didn't like this kid because he knows that a lot of that combine shit is bullshit. You already know that. A lot of that combine shit is bullshit. Because his old man knew it was a bunch of bullshit. But wherever he ends up landing, I think he'll be a fine quarterback in the NFL. He should be a second rounder. It might be first. It might be in the late rounds. Because as I said before, between Cleveland, Vegas at 37, and New Orleans at 40. That's who should be able to actually take him, or should take him, at that particular spot. At that particular spot. That's who I think should possibly take him. So we'll see what happens. But all of this is playing. They did not want him. All of a sudden, over the past week, negative publicity about Shedeur Sanders. Look at his record. Look at what he's done. Because with black quarterbacks, all of a sudden, I start to see that. I'm like, look at their resume. Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes. But everybody's, he played in the Big 12. So the fuck I give a fuck about that for? What does that mean? It means nothing. Look at what Josh Allen did. He played in a fucking whack. The whack, pun intended. Look at where he's at now. I don't get it. I get it, but I don't get it. A traditional drop back quarterback compared to that of a dual threat quarterback. Now, Deion's been in the league long enough to actually know, talking about Coach Prime, and it's a great thing. Now, it's a liability that comes with that, but hey, it is what it is. So now Jaxson Dart, who rushes for 450 yards a year, throws for 3,000, throws for about close to 3,000 yards a year. That's great. But when it came to a black quarterback, it was an issue. I call it as I see it. We call it as we see it over here, Everything Football 62. Call it as I see it. So why is it an issue with the traditional drop back passer who has a link to that of Tom Brady, who is nothing more than a traditional passer? Even though I said, and I would still say, your quarterback needs to be athletic. Like I say all the time, man, I tell you guys all the time, you know, it's not about me trying to sit up there, and it's not about bringing the race down. I say the race down is like, what was the problem? You know what I'm saying? What was the problem? But we'll see what ends up happening. We'll see where he ends up going tonight. Like I tell you guys all the time, there is no GOAT. There's no greatest of all time as long as time is still going on. And like I tell you guys all the time, numbers don't get emotional. People do. You guys, please have a good one. All right?